There's a moment in every man's life often after 60 when he wakes up and realizes something is missing. Not a sock, not a wallet, not his keys, but something deeper, a part of himself. A fire that used to burn with force but now feels like ashes. That's what happened to Raymond at 60-5. Raymond was once the kind of man other men admired. Strong jawline, commanding voice, steady hands. He built things. Raised kids. He felt invisible, weak, spent, and most of all ashamed. Because last night, for the 4th time in a row, his body had failed him. And no matter how much love he had for his wife, how deeply he wanted to hold her, to be close, to feel like a man, again nothing happened, he didn't talk about it. Men rarely do. Instead, he got up at 5 a.m. like always, shuffled into the... But something was very wrong. He had lost his power. Not just in the bedroom, but everywhere. His energy during the day was flat. His patience ran thin. His motivation to do even small tasks had vanished. His laugh, a memory, his drive, gone. He didn't want pills. He didn't want appointments. He wanted himself back. And then, in a moment of quiet desperation, the old man had said, not just their bodies, their souls. At the time, Raymond had laughed it off. A female doctor helping men with their manhood. It sounded like a scam, but this morning was different. Raymond picked up the phone and searched her name. There, just a headline that said, helping men over 60 reclaim their energy, strength, and confidence naturally. It was the word naturally that hit him. Raymond booked an appointment. The first thing Dr. Sarah asked when they met wasn't about his blood pressure or his performance. It wasn't even medical, she asked, softly. When was the last time you felt proud to be in your own skin? Raymond stared at her. He couldn't remember. Maybe 10 years ago, maybe more. She nodded like she already knew. You don't need a pill. You need to remember how to feed your body, your mind, your spirit. Let's start simple, just your mornings. He expected a complicated prescription. Take 3 vitamins, D3 with K2, B12 methylated, and magnesium glycinate. Stand in front of a window or outside, barefoot if possible, and take 10 deep breaths while looking at the sun. That's it. Raymond felt stupid. How could that fix this? But he had tried everything else. So the next morning, instead of dragging himself into the kitchen, for coffee he followed the list. The water tasted sharp but clean. The vitamins felt pointless, but he swallowed them. The sunlight felt uncomfortable at first, too bright, too raw, but he did the 10 breaths. Nothing changed that day or the next. But on the 4th morning, something small happened. He woke, and didn't feel like collapsing. The week after, he found himself fixing a broken drawer in the kitchen, something he'd been ignoring for months, and humming. 2 weeks later, he was standing taller. He noticed it in his belly wasn't pulling him forward. He had a neck again. And then, one night he reached for his wife. Not out of obligation, but from a real pulsing desire that had returned without warning. And this time his body responded. Tears welled up in his eyes. Hers too. It wasn't about sex. It was about feeling like himself again. About reclaiming the power to love, to lead, to be present. He told Dr. Sarah, and she smiled like she had seen it 100 times. The body knows how to heal, she said. It's just been waiting for you to listen. He was simply giving his body what it had been silently asking for. Hydration, nutrients, light, breath. And with that, he got something far more valuable than performance he got. He kisses his wife with intention, and every morning he repeats the ritual not because he has to, but because it reminds him you are not done yet. Raymond's story isn't unique. In fact, it's painfully common. All across the world, millions of men are fighting a war. They don't speak about a war inside their own bodies. It's not just about performance or stamina. It's about identity. It's about waking up and feeling like you've been unplugged from life. Moving through the world with a mask on while something inside you slowly fades, this battle doesn't explode like a heart attack. It creeps in, quietly. First, you stop, feeling motivated to fix that loose door handle. Then, you stop caring if your shirt is ironed. You forget why you even liked going for walks. You sit down more, sleep longer, but feel more tired. Your thoughts get slower. Your shoulders curl forward. And somewhere along the way, you stop reaching for your wife not because you don't love her, but because you don't feel like yourself anymore. But who do you tell that to? Who do you say, I don't feel like a man anymore? The truth is, men are taught silence. From the time we're boys, we're told to be strong, not emotional, to be providers, not vulnerable, to power through pain, to suck it up. And that becomes our default. We carry the world on our shoulders while pretending our knees aren't buckling underneath. So when our bodies start betraying us, when the erections stop, when the energy vanishes, when the fire dies, we don't talk about it. We hide it, we laugh it off. We fake excuses. We pretend we're just tired, just stressed, just getting older. But deep down, we know the truth. Something's missing. Something's off. Dr. Sarah calls this the quiet collapse. She says it's not a disease, it's a starvation. Men are starving for nutrients, sunlight, movement, brotherhood, meaning, and instead they're fed medication, isolation, and shame. It's not just physical. The loss of energy leads to emotional detachment. Men over 60 report higher rates of loneliness, depression, and anxiety than ever before, but they're less likely to seek help. Why? Because most of us were never taught how. Raymond learned that during one of his second sessions with Dr. Sarah. He had started feeling better. His energy was returning. His mornings had structure. His body felt alive. But something was still off. He still carried a weight in his chest that he couldn't name. Dr. Sarah asked him a simple question. When was the last time you felt safe being seen fully, without pretending? Raymond laughed at first. Safe. Seen. Those were not words men used. But later that night, in bed, he stared at the ceiling and realized he hadn't been honest about how tired he was. Not just in his body, in his soul. He remembered holding his newborn son with confidence. He remembered building a deck with his own 2 hands. He remembered waking up with purpose. But that version of him felt like a movie from decades ago. He had stopped sharing himself not just physically, but emotionally. He had become a ghost in his own home. Present, but not there. Kind, but not connected. And no one had noticed, not even him. That's the danger of this silent battle. It doesn't scream, it whispers. You don't wake up one day broken, you drift. And if no one calls you back, you might never return. But Raymond was lucky. He had someone, a doctor. Yes, but more than that, a witness. Someone who didn't judge. Someone who listened. Someone who offered truth without shame. And it made him realize every man needs that. Not a savior, not a cheerleader, just a mirror. Someone to say, you're not crazy, you're not weak, you're just depleted. And there's a way back. It's why Dr. Sarah talks not just about biology, but ritual. She believes men don't need more pills. They need rhythm, purpose, ownership of their mornings, a reason to reclaim their bodies. She teaches them that testosterone isn't just a hormone, it's a message. It tells your brain, you matter. You still have power, but testosterone doesn't respond to shame or stress. It responds to sunlight, to strength, to stillness, to sleep. It's not just about libido, it's about presence. And so Raymond started rebuilding his life not with a gym membership or a radical diet, but with consistency, with truth. He got honest with his wife. He told her he had felt distant, ashamed, and scared. And for the first time in years, she cried in front of him not because he was weak, but because he finally let her in. Their marriage didn't just improve, it deepened. That's what happens when a man stops fighting alone. So if you're reading this and you feel it, tooth adrift, the quiet fading of your fire, I want you to know this. You are not alone. There's a brotherhood of men rising again. Men who are tired of hiding. Men who want their strength back. Not the illusion of youth, but the truth of manhood, rooted, firm, whole. You don't need to scream for help. You don't need to explain everything. You just need to say one honest sentence. I'm ready to feel alive again. And then take one honest action. Drink the water, take the vitamins. Stand in the light. Breathe. Every great comeback starts with something small. Yours can start today, and if you need a voice to guide you, we're here, not to sell you something, to remind you of who you are not fading, you are just waiting. Now rise. The world is full of advice. Thousands of books, podcasts, supplements, and gurus all claiming to have the answer. But for Raymond, everything changed. Not with a program, a prescription, or a plan, but with a routine so simple it almost seemed laughable. 3 minutes. That's all it took. 3 minutes every morning to start healing a man who had been silently breaking for years, Dr. Sarah told him. The body responds to rhythm. If you give it a reason to trust you, it will rise again. And so, Raymond committed to just 3 minutes, not for show, not for others, just for himself. His sanctuary. It started with a tall glass of water with a pinch of sea salt and half a lemon. It wasn't pleasant at first. The taste felt sharp, unusual, but something about it made his body pay attention. His cells seemed to wake up. He didn't feel instantly energized, but he felt ... clearer. Then came the 3 supplements, lined up beside the sink like loyal soldiers. Vitamin D3 with K2 in a soft gel. Methylated B12, sublingual. Magnesium glycinate, smooth and easy. To digest, he took them with intention, not out of habit, but as an act of respect toward his body. He didn't think of them as pills. He thought of them as fuel. Finally, he would step outside barefoot when possible and look at the morning sun. Even on cloudy days, even in the cold, he would face the light and breathe. 10 deep, slow breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, counting each one silently, feeling his chest expand, his feet on the ground, his heart gradually calm. That was it. 3 minutes, no weights, no machines, no apps. Just breath, light, water, and intention. But here's the miracle. Within 30 days, everything was different at first. It was small things. He didn't need coffee right away. He wasn't snapping at his wife over little things. He found himself whistling while cleaning the garage. But slowly, something deeper happened. His posture changed. His eyes sharpened. He began walking more, laughing more, thinking faster. And then, one night, he reached for his wife, not out of obligation, but out of true desire. And she felt it. It wasn't a miracle. It was biology. It was discipline. It was trust rebuilt between mind and body. What Raymond discovered is something Dr. Sarah has seen countless times. Men over 60 don't need extreme solutions. They need consistency. They need rituals that tell their bodies, you are still important. You are still capable. It's not about adding noise, it's about removing chaos. Raymond's 3-minute ritual worked because it was doable. It didn't require motivation. It didn't depend on mood. It became automatic, like brushing his teeth but sacred. And soon, it wasn't just about the 3 minutes. That little commitment began to ripple through his entire life. He started going to bed 30 minutes earlier. He swapped processed foods for simple whole meals. He drank more water. He picked up a book again. He reconnected with his brother, whom he hadn't called in 6 years. All because of 3 minutes. But here's the truth. No one tells men. The body is not against you. It is for you. It wants to return to strength. It wants to sleep better, breathe deeper, desire again. But it's waiting for you to lead. And once you do, it will follow. Raymond realized that aging wasn't his problem. Neglect was. He hadn't lost his masculinity. He had stopped nurturing it. And that's what this routine gave back to him. Not just health, not just energy, but agency. A sense that he was still in charge. That his body still listened. That his days still mattered. So let me ask you, what if you gave yourself 3 minutes tomorrow morning? What if you honored your body before you touched your phone? What if you breathed in the light instead of drowning in noise? Would it change everything? Maybe not overnight, but in 30 days, you might not recognize the man in the mirror. Not because he looks younger, but because he feels alive again. Raymond does. He's not chasing his 30s. He's commanding his 60s, with focus, with presence, with power. 3 minutes, every morning, no excuses. Just a decision to remember. You are not done. And neither is your body. For most of his life, Raymond believed that strength lived in his muscles, his hands, his ability to lift, build, provide, endure. But as he moved through his 60s, something inside him shifted. He realized strength wasn't what it used to be. It wasn't in what he could carry, it was in what he could hold inside and still keep moving forward. And for the first time, he understood. Healing isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's spiritual. It's deeply tied to purpose. Yes, his energy was coming back. The morning ritual had become second nature. His body responded with better sleep, improved digestion, and yes, his desire had returned. He once again looked at his wife and felt drawn to her, not just with memory, but with presence. But something bigger was happening. Something more important than hormones or vitamins. Raymond began to feel necessary again. That sense of usefulness, of relevance had been slowly slipping away for years. Retirement had left a void. His kids had grown up and moved on. His friends were busy or gone. For a long time, he felt like a satellite orbiting a world that no longer needed him. That, Dr. Sarah explained, is one of the most dangerous emotional diseases in older men. Disconnection from meaning. You can fix your biochemistry, she told him. But if you don't restore your connection to purpose, you'll still feel empty. The body may rise, but the soul will remain collapsed. That truth hit him harder than any diagnosis ever had, because it explained everything. The tiredness, the withdrawal, the loss of desire, even the lack of laughter. So she gave him a new kind of prescription, not something to swallow, but something to rediscover. She asked, "What did you used to love that you stopped doing, not because you didn't have time, but because you stopped believing it mattered?" The answer came faster than he expected. Telling stories. Raymond had always loved to speak, not to perform, but to teach, to share, to help others make sense of life. In his younger years, he had mentored young men at church. At work, he was the one everyone came to for advice. But when he stepped away from those spaces, something in him went quiet. He told himself they didn't need him anymore, that his wisdom was outdated. But what if that wasn't true? What if his voice still mattered? What if that was the final piece of healing, not just restoring his body, but reactivating his mission? So Raymond made a decision. Every Friday morning, After his routine, he would sit on his porch and record a voice message, short stories, reflections, lessons learned the hard way. He didn't know who would listen. He just knew he needed to speak again. He sent the first one to his sons, then to a few old colleagues, then to the pastor at his local church, and within weeks, something miraculous happened. Messages came back. "Ray, I needed to hear that today. That story about your dad, man, that hit me hard. You sound more alive than you have in years." It wasn't a podcast. It wasn't polished. It was pure. And it became a channel not just of his voice, but of his life force. His purpose. And with that, his healing went deeper than ever before. His skin looked brighter. His eyes sparkled. He laughed louder. He made love with more presence. He stood taller. Not because of posture, but because of truth. That's what most men don't realize. We lose our energy when we lose our purpose. Desire doesn't just come from testosterone, it comes from meaning. You don't just want to feel strong. You want to feel needed, and that need doesn't fade with age. Simply gets buried under decades of silence. Raymond learned that healing isn't about reversing time. It's about realigning with who you were before life numbed you. Dr. Sarah said something in one of their sessions that stayed with him. The male body thrives not just on nutrients, but on mission. When men have something to wake up for, someone, to lead something, to build a message, to share their biology, responds. The body releases energy. The mind sharpens. The heart opens, because now it has a reason to keep beating boldly. And Raymond had found that reason again. He no longer feared aging. He welcomed it, because now he wasn't dying slowly. He was living intentionally. So what about you? What have you set aside because you thought your time had passed? What part of your voice is still waiting to speak? What story inside of you deserves to be heard before your time on this earth is over? Because your healing doesn't stop at the gym or the kitchen counter. It continues in the way you live, in the way you give, in the way you show up when others expect you to disappear. You're not here by accident, and you're not too late. You're right on time. Purpose is waiting for you, and once you find it, your body will thank you. Your energy will return not because you forced it, but because you invited it home. Raymond did. And now, every breath he takes is not just oxygen, it's legacy. There was a time not long ago when Raymond couldn't say the word failure out loud. It stuck in his throat like a stone. It wasn't that he had done something wrong, it was that he felt wrong. His body, once reliable, had stopped responding. His desires had dulled, his confidence had collapsed. And worst of all, he believed he was the only one. He wasn't every day. Thousands of men walk around with the same quiet shame. They carry it in their lowered gaze, in the hesitation of their hands, in the silence between words. They laugh, nod, go through the motions, but inside, something is broken. Not fatally, not irreparably, but broken nonetheless. And for many of them, the shame is tied to something intimate. Not just performance in the bedroom, but something deeper. The feeling that their masculinity has expired. Raymond used to avoid looking at himself in the mirror, not because of wrinkles or weight, but because he didn't recognize the man staring back. That man didn't lead. That man didn't glow. That man didn't burn like he used to. But the truth, as he discovered through Dr. Sarah's process, was this. He hadn't lost his masculinity. He had simply stopped feeding it. Masculinity, like any form of energy, needs fuel. And Raymond had been running on fumes. He learned that testosterone wasn't a villain or a taboo, it was information. It told his body, you still matter, you're still here. And when the body stopped getting that message, it began to shut down parts of itself. But Dr. Sarah taught him something few doctors ever say. Your body isn't betraying you, it's waiting on your permission to thrive again. Those words cracked something open in him. For so long, he had treated himself like a machine with parts wearing out. But he wasn't a machine. He was a living, growing, adaptive system, and that system still had the capacity to be strong, sexual, confident, desirable, and fully masculine. But first, he had to let go of embarrassment. And that was the hardest part. It meant admitting that he had been avoiding intimacy, that he had been afraid to try again, that he had been pretending everything was fine. But in that vulnerability came his first real breakthrough, because when he sat down with his wife and said the words, "I haven't felt like a man lately," she didn't flinch. She didn't laugh. She didn't pull away. She leaned in. She took his hand and she said, "I've missed you too." And that moment, unrehearsed. Rio was the beginning of their new chapter. From that day on, Raymond stopped treating his body like an enemy. He stopped hiding. He stopped apologizing for wanting to feel powerful again. He began to explore his body with curiosity instead of shame. He added gentle movement to his mornings. He drank water like it was medicine. He kept taking his daily big 3 vitamin D, 3 K2, B12, Magnesium. He journaled once a week not about goals, but about how he felt. And slowly, embarrassment transformed into empowerment. He felt masculine not because of performance, but because of presence. Because when he spoke, he meant it. When he touched, he connected. When he led, he listened. And that is what true masculinity looks like after 60. Not dominance, not perfection, not bravado, but alignment, integrity, courage, calm. It's in how you stand, how you breathe, how you carry your scars. With pride instead of shame, Raymond began to understand that masculinity isn't something you retire from. It's something you evolve into. He wasn't trying to be who he was. At 30, he was becoming the best version of who he had ever been right now, and it showed. He wasn't louder. He was quieter but more commanding. He didn't chase. He attracted. He didn't prove. He simply was. And that's what Dr. Sarah had been guiding him toward all along. Not just better hormones or better mornings, but a full reconstruction of masculine identity fueled by honesty, biology, and care. So if you've ever felt like your edge is gone, your fire's out, your time has passed, listen to this. Your masculinity didn't die. It's just been waiting for you to acknowledge it, to honor it, to lead it back into the light, because now you know the truth. You are not less of a man because your body changed. You are more of a man when you rise to meet that change head on. Heart open, fists unclenched. And if you're still reading this, you're already on your way. Now it's time to act. Not with noise, but with quiet. Consistent power. Start again. And this time, don't just reclaim your body, reclaim your manhood.